Hello everyone, and welcome to the Psychoacoustics course. What is psychoacoustics? Psychoacoustics is the study of the perception of sound, and I wanted to go over some general terminology that will flow through a lot of the units that we're going to discuss, but it will be a good introduction for you. General psychoacoustics is the relationship between a physical signal and the psychological response to that signal. For example, loudness is the correlate of intensity, but we perceive loudness differently than we actually measure intensity. So we use different units for that perception. A phon is the unit of perceived loudness, and then it's broken down a little bit further, and a sone is the unit of subjective loudness that's equal to 40 phons. We're going to go over all of this when we talk about loudness. Pitch is the correlate of frequency, and a mel is the unit of perceived pitch. Again, we perceive pitch differently than frequency is measured, and we'll go over that when we talk about pitch. We're also going to discuss localization. How do we perceive sounds in our environment or under headphones? And we have interaural time differences, so difference in timing between the ears, and interaural intensity differences, or differences in intensity of a sound between ears. So like I said, psychoacoustics is the perception of sound. We have a physical stimulus that can be measured, and then we have the psychological response that can be measured, and they may vary a little bit. So we have perceptual correlates of each. So example, the perceptual correlate of intensity is going to be a phon, and the perceptual correlate of frequency is going to be a mel. In psychoacoustics, we also examine how individuals respond to sounds. So we can talk about absolute sensitivity or a threshold, and then the detection of that sound. Is something there? How is the person perceiving that something is there to detect it? We have something called differential sensitivity, which is a just noticeable difference between two different stimuli. And we can look at discrimination. So someone can be tested as to whether they perceive the sounds as the same or different. We also have sensory capability, which plays a factor in this, and that's the person's sensitivity. Do they have a hearing loss? Do they have auditory processing problems? And we also have response proclivity, which is the response bias. What is that person using as their response bias to say, yes, I hear the sound, or no, I don't, or yes, they are the same, or no, they're different. And that can vary from person to person, or even within a person from testing session to testing session. So the stimulus or signal is the physical thing presented, and the stimulus parameters are the characteristics of that stimulus, so the intensity, the frequency, and the duration. And a trial is each presentation of a stimulus which requires a response. And a lot of times we'll block the trial, so we'll do several trials together. There'll also be a catch trial where there isn't anything presented, and we see if the person responds or not. Step size is the increment by which you change the stimulus from trial to trial. And a run is the number of individual presentations or trials of a stimulus. A reversal is only used in adaptive procedures, meaning that the direction of change goes from increasing to decreasing or vice versa based on the person's response. Intervals are individual tokens that can be all or part of a trial, and an observation interval is usually 10 to 20 milliseconds before a signal starts, and the response interval is usually 1 to 3 seconds. Interstimulus intervals can vary, but they're usually 100 to 500 milliseconds between intervals, and often feedback is given as to whether the response was correct or incorrect. So that was a lot to hit you with, I know. I just wanted to go over some of these terms. You can save this PowerPoint and refer back to it when we go through these different sections so that you can remember these different words and what they mean. I'm looking forward to working with you this semester.